Hello friends, I am Nisha Sharma, Associate Professor, Department of Girish. The topic under discussion today is major themes in Girish Karnad's play Tokla. Girish Karnad's second attempt, first was Yayati. Second attempt, Tughlaq is certainly a historical play which deals in depth with the last 5 years of checkered reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. This play was originally written in Kannada and translated into English by Ali Adusi. It was first staged at Bhulabhai Auditorium at Mumbai in August 1970 with a great success. Tughlaq brought him name and fame at once. As U.R. Ananthamurthy in his introduction to Tughlaq stated, it is not hard to account for the immediate response the play has received from Kannada as well as other audiences. One can enjoy the play on the stage without paying much attention to its rich and complex symbolism and the subtle weaving of its different motifs. The play has an interesting story, an intricate plot, scope for spectacle, and dramatic conventions like the comic pair Aziz and Azam, to which theatre audiences responded readily. The action of the play Tughlaq takes place first of all in Delhi in the year 1327, then on the route from Delhi to Daulatabad, and lastly 5 years later in and around the fort in Daulatabad. Before he wrote Tughlaq, Girish Karnad started reading history widely. In an interview, Karnad says, "When I read about Muhammad bin Tughlaq, I was fascinated. How marvelous this was, I thought. Tughlaq was a brilliant individual, yet is regarded as one of the biggest failures. He tried to introduce policies that seem today to be far-sighted to the point of genius, but which earned him the nickname Muhammad the Man. He ended his career in bloodshed and chaos." Girish Karnad's success in the field of contemporary theatre bears testimony to the fact that Indian theatre has revitalized itself through the use of experimental models. His plays are an assertion of the fact that Indian theatre can achieve significant success only by a return to the roots. His plays are an interesting blend of the classical and the popular elements of Indian theatre. He borrows theatrical techniques both from the Sanskrit and the folk theatres of India. His plays are often considered to be an important part of Indian English literature, the consensus being that he himself has translated these plays into English. Karnad, whose mother tongue was Konkani, wrote almost all his plays in Kannada, which was second language to him. The English translations of his plays are considered by many to be far better in terms of literary merit than the Kannada originals. Another interesting aspect of Karnad's plays is that they do not directly base themselves on the original versions of a folk tale or legend. They quite often develop out of a distinct and identifiable English translations of the original. In his preface to his Nag Mandala, for instance, Karnad argues that the play is based on two oral tales from Karnataka, which I first heard from Professor A.K. Ramanujan. One of the dramatic techniques central to Karnad is the recontextualization of history in the framework of the present. The past gets a contemporary elements in most of his plays. This is clearly evident in plays like Tel Danda and Tughlaq. Girish Karnad's Tughlaq is a representation of one of the most important but nevertheless neglected periods of Indian history. The reign of the 14th century Mughal Emperor Muhammad bin Tughlaq remains till date one of the most turbulent periods of history. This is the first and most significant play in the post-independence period to have engaged with the Sultanate period in Indian history. This period brought an end to the golden age of classical Hinduism and introduced Islam as a dominant force. This is one of the most important phases of Islamic imperialism in India. but it remains neglected in the national imaginary because of the attention given to the later Mughal and British imperialism. In the narrative of the life and achievements of the eccentric Sultan, Karnad saw the possibilities of creating a drama about contemporary political turmoil. While Karnad eclectically borrows from a variety of sources like Ziauddin Barni's contemporaneous account of Tughlaq and Tariq-e-Firoza Shahi, he also freely blends fact and fiction to give the story contemporary relevance. The play then represents the hopes and disappointments in the political life of the Nehruvian era in Indian politics. It voices the disillusionment of the people of Karnat's generation with Nehru's idealism. The play is a comment of the political scenario of the 2 decades after independence under Nehru's leadership. Nehru's vulnerability to failure, in spite of overarching ambition and an uncompromising intellect, is parallel with that of Tughlaq. Karnat's Tughlaq is a significant intervention in history, as also a site for the development of creative analogy between the past and the present. The contemporary described to a historical situation makes the play unique. Thus, the major theme of the play is history, and we can discuss it in this manner. Idealistic leadership versus real leadership. What makes the Sultan's character more fascinating is his paradoxical and complex nature. He is portrayed as a dreamer and a man of action, benevolent and cruel, devout and careless. Your Ananthamurti remarks, both Tughlaq and his enemies initially appear to be idealists, yet in the pursuit of the ideal, they perpetrate its opposite. The whole play is structured on these opposites, the ideal and the real, the divine aspiration and the deft intrigue. These opposites constitute the main charm of the structure of Tughlaq. Tughlaq promises his subjects to maintain justice, equality, progress, and peace. Not just peace, but a more purposeful life, without any consideration of might and weakness, religion, or creed. But to a great surprise, he could not win the hearts of his public. He wants to give his beloved people peace, freedom, justice, and progress. He says that his people would witness how justice works in my kingdom, without any consideration of might or weakness, religion, or creed. But his ascendancy over the throne of Delhi makes him at once a dreamer and a man of action, benevolent and cruel, devout and godless. His two close, Burning, the scholarly historian, and Nazim, the politician, seem to represent the two opposite selves of Tughlaq. While Aziz, the very time server, appears to represent all those who took advantage of Sultan's visionary schemes and fooled him. Indeed, Tughlaq was at first an idealist, but as time passed on, his idealism failed, and he turned to be a shrewd politician, a callous and heartless murderer, an intriguer who employed religion for his political motives and even hurled the country into turmoil and troubles. Thus, the play explores the paradox of pseudo idealistic Sultan Muhammad Tughlaq, whose reign is regarded as a spectacular failure in India's history. As an idealist and visionary, a rationalist and forward looking emperor, Tughlaq tried to introduce his kingdom into an egalitarian society, but he found the circumstances not favorable to rule because the country was divided between Islam and Hinduism. There was much animosity between the Hindus and Muslims. Tughlaq began to make efforts to bring about harmony between the two communities, justice and equality for all for the welfare of his people. He said, may this moment burn bright and light up our path towards greater justice, equality, progress, and peace. Not just peace, but a more purposeful life. Tughlaq wanted to be an enlightened and liberal despot and tried hard to find the cooperation of his subjects, which was denied to him due to the bigotry and orthodoxy of his people. The people failed to understand his idealism and reformatory zeal and condemned him as an animal of Islam. In fact, he is a devout Muslim with full faith in the Holy Quran, but his rationalistic and ideal views are beyond the comprehension of his subjects. However, the young people admire and support the liberal and secular policies of the Sultan, whose rationalistic and modernized attitude appeals the youth. To him, the country is in perfectly safe hand, safer than any you have seen before. No other sultan before Tughlaq allowed a subject within a mile's distance. It is he who made prayer 5 times a day compulsory for all Muslims as dictated in the Quran. The young man further advocates him and says, now you pray 5 times a day because that's the law, and if you break it, you will have the officers on your name. Can you mention one earlier sultan in whose time people read the Quran in the streets like now? Religious tolerance as a political strategy. The Sultan practiced the idea of brotherhood, which is an important aspect of human values in Islam, and this in turn annoyed the ecclesiastics because it undermined their political interests. The efforts of the Sultan to bridge the difference between Hindus and Muslims invited anger and displeasure of the mullahs and Maulvis. To unite them, he abolished the jizya tax and openly declared that both Hindus and Muslims would be treated impartially and would be equal in the eyes of the law. But this made him a suspect both in the eyes of the Hindus and the Muslims. The old man in the first scene mocked at the Sultan's liberal attitude towards Hindus. Beware of the Hindu who embraces you. Before you know what, he'll turn Islam into other caste, another caste, and call the Prophet an incarnation of his God. Even Hindus who were prospering and exempted from jizya taxes never trusted on their path. They bowed with such insults silently. A Hindu expresses his anguish in the following words. We didn't want an exemption. Look, when a sultan kicks me in the teeth and says, pay up to Hindu dog, I'm happy. I know I'm safe. But the moment a man comes along and says, I know you are a Hindu, but you are also a human being, well, that makes me nervous. The young Muslim reacted sharply and violently to this statement of the Hindu and called him ungrateful wretch. Tughlaq remained an idealist and visionary throughout his life. As he said to his stepmother, I pray to the Almighty to save me from sleep all day long. I have to worry about tomorrow, but it's only when the night falls that I can step beyond all that. Even at the height of frustration, he did not give up his visions and idealism. He tells the young man, 19? Nice is. An age when you think you can clasp the whole world in your palm like a real diamond. I was 21 when I came to Daulatabad first and built this wall. I supervised the placing of every brick in it, and I said to myself, one day I shall build my own history like this, brick by brick. One another incident that is noticeable in context of the theme is shifting of the capital to Daulatabad. By temperament, Tughlaq was a rationalist and philosopher, and he wanted to build up a powerful and united nation. The far-sighted Tughlaq announced his policy to shift the capital by saying that this is no mad whim of a tyrant. My ministers and I took this decision after careful thought and discussion. The decision to shift the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad was taken because my empire is large now and embraces the south, and I need a capital which is at its heart. Delhi is too near the border, and as you well know, its peace is never free from the fear of invaders. But for me, the most important factor is that Daulatabad is a city of Hindus, and as the capital, it will symbolize the bond between Muslims and Hindus, which I wish to develop and strengthen in my kingdom. I invite you all to accompany me to Daulatabad. This is only an invitation and not an order. Only those who have faith in me may come with me. With their help, I shall build an empire which will be the envy of the world. Tughlaq's rash decision to change the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad is a turning point in Tughlaq, which results in untold and inexpressible suffering to the common man. Prayer and religion are mediated for power and money. Prayer is used to achieve an end and not an end in itself. The word prayer is repeated several times and it reverberates throughout the play. Karnad dexterously shows how prayer affects the ruler and the masses. The powerful and the prosperous and the rulers can pray in peace. The poor who are exploited and empty stomachs cannot even think of prayer. Their prayer is only to earn bread by the sweat of brow. To Tughlaq, it was masquerade to hide his guilty conscience, and to the hungry people, it was luxury. In the atmosphere of atrociousness, cruelty, killing, sobs and sighs, wailing and tears which India had during the reign of Muhammad, it was very difficult for the people to live. Thus, the drama depicts the disintegration of a powerful personality within a span of 5 years. The spiritual anguish of the Sultan is fully brought out. It has been shown that he is tithering on the brink of madness. In this psychological study lies the secret of the popularity of the play. Thus, history is the main theme of the play, and it has been treated by Girish Karnad, twisted by Girish Karnad to suit his needs. Thank you.